For the past week or so, all I have seen is just a lot of the conservative commentary and a lot of the mainstream media complaining that it's just kind of like a slow news day or it's a slow news week. There's not a whole lot that's going on. Well, that all changed this past weekend. It really did. And I'm here to talk to you about it today. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the grand reopening of America. It is something that I have been wanting to talk about for a good year or so, ever since they shut it down. So stick around for this episode of the Freedom Hub. It is a great day to be an American. Why? Because of patriots like you. Patriots like you who go out of their way to hear the real conservative voice, to hear logic and reason amongst all the rhetoric and narrative. And that's what we do here at the Freedom Hub. We tell you how it is. So, in order to support my channel and to keep this going on, what I need you to do is I need you to be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and let freedom ring throughout the land. Thank you all for watching the Freedom Hub. Today we are going to be talking about the reopening of America. It's like I said before, it's something that I've been really waiting to talk about for a while, but it just really hadn't happened yet. But that all changed. That all changed last week. So it starts off, of course, with Texas, the great state of Texas, and the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott. He announced this past Tuesday that he is lifting the mask mandate and all business restrictions, all of them. They are back to operating at 100% efficiency. Way to go, Texas. He is quoted as saying, "It is now time to open Texas 100%. COVID has not disappeared, but state mandates are no longer needed." Right about the same time, the Mississippi governor, Tate Reeves, announced the same goes for his state. He said, "Today I signed what I expect will be one of my last executive orders regarding COVID-19. Our hospitalizations have plummeted, and our case numbers have fallen dramatically as well. In fact, our case numbers have fallen to the point where no county meets the original criteria for a mask mandate." Pretty great. He said that the former executive orders, will be switched to recommendations. Like as if you can make up your own mind about things. It's kind of crazy how that works. He also said the governor's office is getting out of the business of telling people what they can and can't do. It's almost like another way of saying it's a free country. Oh, yeah. And just for those of you who are curious, today I am drinking a Jameson Black Barrel Irish whiskey and ginger ale. Now, while the ginger ale is a little bit flat, the Jameson Black Barrel really shines through on this one. And if you really want to know exactly how I feel about Jameson Black Barrel, check out our latest whiskey review here on the channel. So, Texas and Mississippi, welcoming them back to the fold of a normal America. I love it. I really do. But they're not the only ones, believe it or not. Some other things you might not have heard, because the mainstream media just doesn't report it, is that the restaurants in Massachusetts have eliminated their capacity restrictions on restaurants. So now you and your family can go eat in a restaurant in Massachusetts. It's a pretty great thing. South Carolina. South Carolina dropped the mandate banning large gatherings, and another one that forced businesses to close by 11 o'clock. By 11 p.m., they dropped them. I saw pictures of people in line outside the bars. Now, that's also because this is the first time in a year that South Carolina's citizens have been able to go to an indoor bar. Yes, I still get mad at the cause of all of this and the fact that it happened. I do. But like I said before, we celebrate the wins. We really do celebrate the wins. A win is a win. There has even been some progress in more liberal areas, say like Chicago. Chicago, last week, for the first time in nearly a year, had in-person learning for their students. Tens of thousands of students in the Chicago area went back to school. They got off the computers and they went back to real learning. There has even been some progress in California, of all places, where they have actually allowed businesses to reopen. Certain businesses, mind you. Businesses like museums and movie theaters and even gyms. And of course they can reopen. But of course with a very long list of restrictions. California theme parks like Disneyland and Magic Mountain are going to reopen on April 1st. But also with a massive list of restrictions. And only to California residents. So, vacation destination, maybe, but not to 49 other states, let alone all the other countries. But something's better than nothing, and something is a win, right? Well, it's also very important to note that Texas and Mississippi lifting these restrictions and these other states easing theirs, it's not the first. South Dakota and Florida have kind of led the charge for a very long time. While liberals are clinging to the control that they have had over their states because of COVID-19. Ron DeSantis has not been afraid to speak out against the lunacy of restrictions and returning to common sense. Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota had her lack of COVID restrictions attacked by the liberal media. They said that South Dakota is doomed and that the residents of that state should flee to fear for their very lives. Dr. Fauci said she could expect tens of thousands of hospitalizations. Here's a fact for you. The most COVID-19 patients that South Dakota had at a single time was 600. Not the tens of thousands that Fauci told Governor Noem that she was going to have and that she was going to have to deal with and prepare to have the hospitals overrun and it's just going to be awful. 600. Governor Kristi Noem, she didn't shut down one single business. And she did not ever impose a mask mandate among her citizens, her constituents. 600 tops. Very interesting. So, with the easing of these restrictions, you started seeing the liberal media react to it only really in print. They never really said anything about it on the news. or anything that people actually watch. They talked about it just in articles, just in print. And that's where I found the reactions when doing the research for this episode. And they said certain things like Texas and Mississippi easing restrictions is like pouring gas on a fire. That's from NBC. You can look that up. And of course, you had Joe Biden commenting on it, saying it's Neanderthal thinking. Well, here's that. I'm a proud caveman because I believe in logic and common sense and facts. And we're going to get a little bit more into that later, but here's to all the Neanderthals out there. Added to the long list of names that the mainstream media and government officials, including the President of the United States, has thrown at Republicans and conservatives all over the country. A bag of deplorables, insurrectionists, white supremacists. He didn't call us Neanderthals. He just said that it's Neanderthal thinking. And who does Neanderthal thinking? Neanderthals do. Let's, not talk about semantics here. Thank you, Mr. President. So, how did we get here? How did we get to this point? How much of a connection is there between politics and the science and these restrictions that you see? So I was very intrigued to compare a couple maps during my research for this episode. So the first map that I will show you is the political affiliation for the governor of their respected state. Next, we'll do a side-by-side comparison between that politician, and the first map will be stay-at-home orders. So, as you can see, most stay-at-home orders have been lifted throughout the country, but some remain as an advisory. Interesting to note that every single state that still has a stay-at-home advisory has a Democrat governor. Kind of strange how that works. Is it coincidence? The next map that we'll compare is the business closures due to COVID. So most states have most of their businesses open, with it being a mixed bag with just a select few that are still closed. So Oregon, California, New Mexico, and Colorado and Connecticut hold tight to their liberal ways and are still having entire types of businesses closed. It's been almost a year, and some of those businesses will not be able to reopen even if they were allowed to. The final map that I want to show you is the map of mask mandates. While you still see a lot of mandatory restrictions in place, you can still see the trend with Republican governors from Florida and throughout the Louisiana Purchase area having no restrictions. That would be like a line from Miami up to Montana. That would be like the Louisiana Purchase kind of area of the country. Some might refer to it as a red wall. As far as the elections go, at least. So, kind of interesting how it ties with political affiliation, political party. So, let me tell you something. Science doesn't care how you voted. The virus does not discriminate based on political affiliation. The virus doesn't care who you voted for. It doesn't care what your beliefs are. It's science. Republicans like Governor Nome of South Dakota, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, and Governor Reeves of Mississippi trust you to make your own decisions. It is insanely risky to get behind the wheel of a multi-ton vehicle and drive at 70 miles per hour down a highway surrounded by other people in their multi-ton vehicles who are going just as fast, if not faster than you. Also, any human being with a working trigger finger can fire a gun. And there's a lot of guns here in America. Second Amendment. Pretty great. Definitely more responsible firearm owners than irresponsible firearm owners. But the point is, you're surrounded by humans all day, and any one of them has the capability to do that. But you take these risks every day. You make the decision, and the world trusts you to make the best decision for yourself and your family's well-being. Why doesn't the government do that? If you are at risk, of course, take precautions. Take every precaution necessary. If you are at risk, wear the mask, take the vaccines, go through that. Sure. Stay at home if you're at risk. The science has come out. We know who's at risk. If you're at risk, take the precautions. If you're blind, don't drive a car. It's very, very risky to drive a car when you can't see. If you don't take the precautions, that's on you. It's not on my business. It's not on my livelihood. And it's not on me. It's on you if you don't take those precautions. Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of the Freedom Hub. We'd like to go ahead and thank all of our law enforcement, first responders, veterans, and active military out there. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.